Craveable Podcast, Episode 5, Specialty Diets.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Craveable Podcast. We are your hosts, Ben and Katie, and this show is brought to you by Fossil Farms. So, Ben, why don't you tell us about your day?
So far, so good. It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day out. I finally had lunch, which kind of could segue pretty quickly into our topic because, as you know, I do intermittent fasting, not on purpose. Is like always the joke I make.
It is on purpose.
Well, I always shoot for like 1 o'clock and don't do any breakfast or anything like that. But it's usually because I want to get some things done. And I think a lot of people end up falling into a diet, so to speak. Like it is habitual, right? It's hard to break habits. So like come Saturday or Sunday and I have nothing going on, I don't have lunch prepared. Like I won't eat anything until like 2 or 3 o'clock. And then I get, as you know, a little bit ornery. Luckily, I spend a lot of time at home, but God forbid you get me caught in public and I haven't eaten anything.
Quite
just hyped up on coffee.
You get very hangry, that's for sure.
Yeah. How's your day going?
It's pretty good. Like you said, it's nice outside. We're having nice weather this whole week, which is a really lovely change. What do I have going on? Not too much. Just the regular old.
Making cookies.
That as well.
Katie has a side gig. She makes awesome cookies.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling out my side hustle.
It's my private life. Don't talk about it.
But no, we are going to talk about specialty diets today, which I would have liked to have come up with a better title for this episode, but that's kind of the all-encompassing thing. And what I think is interesting about the word diet, as you know, and as a lot of people probably know, it doesn't necessarily mean you're eating a certain way to lose weight or something like that. Your diet is literally just what you consume. Right. So everyone has a diet, even if you're not on a diet.
Yeah, even if you're not on one, as the kids say.
This is true. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So when I was looking up some specialty diets, there are some that I think we encounter in, our industry frequently, which are usually involving certain restrictions or things people can't eat.
Yeah.
But there's also just in the history of diets, some absolutely crazy stuff out there, like the last thing you and I were looking at. But there's like the belief-based, which is, generally religions.
Yeah.
Things like that.
We have a few people in the office that don't eat certain things based on religious reasons.
Yeah. For sure.
We've had a handful of unfortunate vegans walk through these offices at some point as a meat company.
I don't even know if you could go as far as to say a handful, but fair enough.
Just the one.
And then, of course, there's the diet that everyone thinks of, which is weight control, calorie control, things like that. And then there's the amazingly entertaining fad diets, which is what we were looking into
and laughing about
before this guy. I forget what the official name of the diet is, but it's something like the mucus control diet or something. And there was this German naturopath something, and he believed that slimy foods and mucus in the body were the roots of all diseases. He believed that white blood cells were actually just excess mucus in the body and would cause disease. He believed that dandruff was dried mucus. Those beliefs
nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. All those things are true.
He also believed that the lungs circulated blood through the body. The heart is just a valve. So a lot of interesting stuff there. And what was very funny is how many times the article mentioned that his beliefs had no scientific or medical backing and were
like ours, by the way, not
very
medical
wrong.
Professionals here.
But no, some of these fad diets are nuts.
Yeah, let's start with that because that's actually fascinating. And then we'll go into the more serious stuff. Since we were talking about cookies already, let's do the cookie one.
Sure. You want to take it away?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You're the cookie professional.
So the cookie diet, I don't have the gentleman's name, but it was popularized by this guy who put a bunch of amino acids and baked them into cookies. And the diet basically says you can have like 6 cookies during the day, which amounts to about 500 calories, followed by a 300 calorie dinner. And that was it. That was also generally touted as not very healthy because 800 calories is not enough calories for most people to survive
Less
on.
than half of what I should eat in a day.
Yeah. So, but that was funny. Do you want to talk about the one with the huevos? Because that's probably the kicker for me.
Eggs and wine diet.
Eggs and wine diet.
It's all you really need in life anyway. But this woman was eating only eggs, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She'd have like one egg and a glass of wine for breakfast, and then another egg and a glass of wine for lunch. Oh, 2 eggs.
2 eggs and another glass of wine.
And then a 5-ounce steak and the rest of the bottle for dinner. Yeah, that's a lot of wine in a day.
That's a lot of eggs.
A lot of cholesterol.
You can have like 4 to 5 eggs and a bottle of wine a day. And that was also not medically...
not in this economy.
Not recommended by medical professionals because it was not balanced, and the 1 bottle of wine a day thing probably didn't sit too well with the doctors.
This lady probably lived on a vineyard with way too many chickens, and she was like, I gotta push this product somehow. We gotta get people eating only eggs and drinking wine.
I think it was an actress. I don't know who did it.
Oh, in that case, she was just crazy.
Yeah.
What else is new?
So then you got the cabbage soup diet.
Yeah, it's still popular these days. I think a lot of people eat cabbage soup because it's very filling.
I have
low calorie.
I have seen like recipes online that it's like cabbage weight loss soup. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. Is that why? Because it's filling?
Yeah, because cabbage is like all volume and no sustenance, which is pretty cool. I can't imagine how your house would smell when you're like, oh, I'm making another batch of cabbage soup.
I don't want to.
No.
I don't want to. You got fruitarianism, which is you eat mostly fruit.
Yeah.
You got the grapefruit diet, which is probably the same as fruitarianism, but you just
a little more limited.
Yeah. The raw diet is crazy. That I could never do that.
Still very popular.
People definitely do that a lot today. Yeah. But that's basically all raw. I mean, I don't know how do you get where are you getting your protein from?
Probably
nuts.
Yeah. Or like, I'm sure technically, I don't know, is a roasted nut still raw? Probably not. No. I don't think you should eat unroasted nuts because a lot of them will have like arsenic and stuff in them too, right?
I've never heard that. I didn't even know that all nuts were roasted up until right now.
Yeah, they're like you have to blanch and roast them. If you ever eat a raw nut, don't. Like black walnuts, if you're ever processing those at home for all the listeners who have the time.
Yeah, for all of you people making your own olives. This is true because olives, not walnut.
Close enough.
You could call me out. No, but I was gonna say. When I was in Greece, you see like olive trees, right? And they don't look anything like olives at all. Like there's a whole big process that has to happen.
Right.
I did not research it when I was in Greece. Yeah. But very interesting. Olives, walnuts, 6 in one, half dozen in the other, if you ask me. But then they
both come from trees. I don't know what the argument is.
Thank you. That's why
I'm on your side.
And then one of the last ones that I really liked was the lamb chop and pineapple diet, which is quite literally exactly as it sounds. You subsist off lamb chops and pineapple. Didn't work too well.
Diet of kings.
Yeah, but I was telling you earlier, the lady, I think this might have been an actress too. She was like becoming faint. She was like weak and fainting, and they were like, you can't just eat lamb chops and pineapple. Like you can't. You need more nutrients than that.
And I think I made the joke. I was like, oh, it's like the Judy Garland diet when she was on the set of Wizard of Oz, just being force-fed cigarettes to stay thin. The past is the past for a reason.
I don't want to think
We've moved on. But we, obviously, like there's the larger dietary restrictions like the vegetarians and the vegans who are just abstaining from meat and egg and dairy and things like that. But there's popular diets that I think a lot of people know about. And that's where we should start. Reading these, they sound super great. And I did keto for like a little bit, and it definitely makes a difference in losing weight. I mean, I would say it's not the healthiest diet overall, but again, not a medical professional. What do I know? But it definitely, from the people I've known that switch to it within a few weeks, because your body goes into ketosis and then you're burning fat off of your body instead of eating your body's essentially, instead of breaking down protein in your muscles, which it would do if you're on a regular diet, it goes into ketosis because you haven't been eating carbohydrates, and then it processes fat in your body to turn into energy.
Yeah. I have one of my good friends, she was on keto on and off for a really long time. It was one of the only things that really worked for her, but it's tricky and hard because like you can't really get off of it You know what I mean? Like
Right,
you're not,
'cause
it's not
it'll
sustainable.
Yeah.
And another thing that was
And the benefits disappear once you're off of it.
exactly. But another thing that I thought was crazy is she would have like a beer and we'd be like, I'm half drunk. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. Like I think once she had like 2 glasses of wine and she was like, I don't remember the night. And I was like, really? Like seriously? And apparently
Body's like processing sugar so fast.
but
it's
that's a
give me
thing.
this.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah. And apparently that's so like she, when she was on it, she couldn't really drink because your body doesn't handle it the same way. But and then another thing I thought that was interesting when I was reading about the keto diet, because it is super popular, is that they did, I don't know who they is.
The Royal.
They did studies comparing keto diet to just a low fat diet. So basically almost like polar opposites. And the people in the keto group lost on average like 2 pounds more than the low fat. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends.
What's your goal, essentially? Is like, if
Yeah.
you're going on a diet, what's your goal? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain muscle mass? Well, that would involve working out. Like, what's your end goal? Or you have, risk of heart disease, so you're trying to reduce your cholesterol. All those things play a factor. I know everybody that I talk to that's on keto, they're like, I just want to lose weight. Summer's coming up. I got a bit of a gut.
I think it's a diet. I think it's a diet that, from what I've heard, a lot of people who haven't had luck with diets say, oh, well, this is the first thing that worked for me.
And why is that? Because you're allowed to eat cheese, bacon,
butter,
meat, butter.
Put butter in your coffee. I've never gotten that.
Oh, yeah. I had a friend who was doing that.
So
MCT oil and grass-fed Sherry Gold butter. And I was like, that is an expensive cup of coffee.
That is disgusting.
Also true.
But another general diet, which I feel like it's, I don't know, I don't hear about it as much as keto, but it's fairly popular. And I'm pretty sure this is like one of the healthiest ways to eat in general, is the Mediterranean style diet.
Yeah, ever popular.
Yeah, there's just like super, like fish, is your main source of protein, healthy fats, you got your olive oil, nuts, seeds, whole grains, plenty of fruits and vegetables. Like that in general is a super popular, I think, way to eat healthy.
Yeah, and I might be misremembering, but I could have sworn that they ended up looking into that and they found that it was more like lifestyle oriented than anything else than the diet, because they were looking at this group of people in the Mediterranean who were more active than typical groups of people. And I think that's the same thing in Japan too. It's like you have a lot of people who are inherently active or culturally are about keeping the body healthy, and movement is super important. And that's why when I saw the Mayo Clinic diet, I'm like, oh yeah, that's literally what everybody should be doing. That literally nails it. Healthy breakfast, no snacks, 30 minutes of activity, whole grains, no sugar except in fruit, and no eating while watching TV. Couldn't do the last part because what am I going to do while I'm eating? For 5 minutes while I'm eating, 5 to 7 minutes, I'm not going to watch TV. You got to be out of your mind. I'll watch a YouTube video.
That is like supposedly the first phase of that diet, and then you go into another slightly different phase. But yeah, that's generally, I mean, the no snacks thing is rough. You can have fruits and vegetables as a snack, but I don't, that I spend a lot of time snacking. And physical activity, fine. No sugar. I don't know if I could do that. I took it out of my coffee so I could have it in other things. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I don't want to.
I've been drinking black coffee and suffering through these cups so I can
have
a
candy.
little bit of chocolate.
I'm going to have candy later.
Little Dove bar out of the freezer, read the quote on the inside, feel good before I go to bed. No big deal.
You eat too many of those Dove candies, you're going to just get the same quote and you're going to feel disheartened.
Well, that's okay.
You'll be like, I already
got this one.
I'm already looking inside. And then, I think I touched on this before, but you and I are constantly interacting with people who have super unique dietary restrictions and needs. I mean, I've had people reach out about things that I didn't know were possible.
Yeah. The most important being
alpha-gal.
Yeah, which is so crazy. Yeah.
So alpha-gal has gained a lot of popularity, is very much the wrong word, but a lot of traction, I think, as it's been spreading.
Right.
And so do you want to explain about that?
I'll go with it.
Go ahead.
Alpha-gal is something that you get from a tick bite, in particular the Lone Star tick, which is really prevalent in like the West Virginia area, going down into the south and slowly, unfortunately, moving up to the northeast, which is terrible for us because there's a lot of ticks in our area too, just a different species, typically like dog ticks, deer ticks, etc. But when you get alpha-gal, you actually develop a mammalian meat allergy. So you cannot eat red meat from mammals, be it cows, pigs, deer, boar, bison, any of that. You can't eat anymore. It'll make you physically sick. Yeah,
elk.
all of that. Rabbit even, which I didn't know that you can't eat rabbit. I don't even know. I think there's only like poultry proteins that you can eat. So you can still eat duck. You can still eat ostrich, which is really great because that's really the only alternative that's like readily available for red meat. And then eating chicken all the time and fish.
And turkey. But yeah, it's
so a lot. The more I think about it, but they're all such similar proteins that I already get bored out of my mind. Like if I couldn't do like the venison or the beef anymore, I think I'd be a little bit disappointed. Like the slow cooked meats. Like what do you do when you're trying to have a little party? What are you gonna put on the grill? Chicken sausages?
Yeah,
don't come over. It's not gonna be fun.
I mean, I feel bad for everyone I speak to that calls in and has that, and they're all kind of pissed too.
Yeah.
But a lot of them used to be, like red meat enthusiasts, and now they can't eat a steak and they're like pulling their hair out. But it's crazy. So it is a red meat allergy. So it's actually an allergy to a specific sugar molecule, alpha galactose, that is basically just found in all mammals. So as soon as your body detects that, like 2 to 4 hours after eating whatever it is, you'll have symptoms. And a lot of people with alpha-gal also can't have like dairy products and things like that. I believe some can, but I know that there are versions of it or conditions of it where that dairy from, the cow is affecting you. So that's rough. Like that's a lot.
It's life-changing. If you have 100%. To change the entire way that you source your proteins, if we're even still going to eat meat for the rest of your life, I don't know what I would do.
So imagine you had a seafood allergy. Imagine you had a seafood allergy and you got alpha-gal. That's like devastating. No. It's terrible.
What do you do?
You eat nuts and seeds. I don't know. It's not good.
You turn into a bird.
Basically. What else we got? So that's a specific one. The alpha-gal. That's dietary restrictions that it's medically, needed. And then I know a lot of people that have been doing the elimination diet, which is, I guess it is technically a diet. I'm about to contradict myself from earlier in the episode. But, when people, like I have a couple friends that have been, whenever they have a rash or they can't lose weight or just strange symptoms. And the way that unless you want to pay, I think it's a super expensive test if you get that allergy test done.
Oh, like where they cover your back with the grid and they do the little poke test or something?
Yeah, no, I think so. I don't know how it's done, but like you go to the doctor and you basically get this test and then it gives you a list of like basically everything and like how sensitive you are to it. So like you could be, whatever. If you're 5% sensitive to something, I think you're fine to eat it. But like the more it goes up, you're like, oh man, I can't eat chicken. And like it wouldn't I don't think it would be necessarily broad categories like mammals. And cause like I've talked to friends and they're like, oh yeah, chicken is not good for me. And I think that's crazy. But I'd
be like, chicken's really good for you.
Yeah.
Despite what you might think.
But so then you either do that and or the elimination diet. So you just basically, I'm going to spend, I don't know, however long it might take, 2 weeks, whatever, not eating dairy. See how I feel. If nothing changes, add dairy back in. Spend 2 weeks not eating green vegetables. That'll probably not help.
I think our cohort had to go through an elimination diet. We should talk to her about that at some point. Our good friend Stacy.
Yeah.
She's in the room right
guys.
now.
There's other people in this room.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And then this is weird. Have you heard about this, the FODMAP thing?
No.
So I had someone email me once about this, and I didn't really know what it was. I actually looked it up. So I would assume that's how it's pronounced. Low FODMAP, all capitalized, FODMAP. So it restricts the consumption of fermentable carbohydrates, which is AKA FODMAPs, which is super strange. It's supposed to help with like IBS, I guess, if that's your concern. But it's also not like super optimal for long term. You're not supposed to do it for a long time or without consulting like a specialist, a doctor. But I don't know. I'll be frank with you. I don't know what fermentable carbohydrates are.
Pickles?
I don't. That's not a carbohydrate. That's a pickled vegetable.
Pickled carrots? I mean, carrots have carbohydrates in it. Isn't that just pure sugars? Or you're not pickling bread. You're not fermenting bread. Well,
I don't know.
Sourdough?
That's a ferment. That's a hard ferment.
Again, totally not doctors.
No, not doctors. But yeah, you can look up FODMAPs after this and
yeah, I'll be Googling FODMAPs on my drive home.
Put your FODMAP on. And then, so what's crazy is, so those are diets where obviously, you can't eat a lot of different kinds of food.
Yeah. Or like celiacs and things like that. Those are
huge ones. The 10 like number one most common dietary restrictions are like lactose, gluten-free.
That's me. Lactose.
Veganism.
We're still friends. We're just not
vegetarianism, kosher, keto, diabetes, dairy-free. So there's a difference between lactose-free and dairy-free. So lactose-free is like you can have the milk with the lactose removed.
Okay, yeah, like Lactaid.
Yeah, but dairy-free.
Chocolate Lactaid, that's my thing.
Is that really a thing?
It's delicious.
I think that's interesting. I'm glad
it's a box smoothie. It rules.
I'm glad you found a book that works for you. But no, the dairy-free people literally cannot have any dairy, like butter or anything. They're allergic. That's an allergy to a protein in the milk.
Interesting.
Not the lactose in the milk. Don't ever sign me up to be dairy-free.
That's why sometimes whole milk is a little bit blue in color, is because the proteins that are suspended in it, the light that permeates it changes the hue, so milk can be a little bit blue looking.
Is this true?
Yeah,
that's very
I learned
strange.
that when I used to work with cheese.
I would never drink blue milk if I came across
Hence,
it.
not best friends. But.
No, not best friends. Ben ate too much cheese in his life, guys, so now he's paying the price.
That's not a doctor.
Not a doctor. And so, I mean, this is kind of I'm kind of going out of left field here, but you probably saw the last section there that I noted down. And so this is something we deal with literally all the time.
Crazy.
Probably every day.
Which, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, and let's just get into it, and then we'll elaborate why it's so horrible for people. It's about pets who have specialty diets, pets that have food allergies and things like that. Imagine if your child had a food allergy and you can't get it the one food it can eat. How many times, how many... can you even count on 2 hands and 2 feet? How many times we get a phone call from someone who can't get the protein, the only protein that their dog or cat can eat, and they're crying on the phone? And we get it. I have an immense amount of empathy for that. I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I would freak out on the phone too. Yeah. Absolutely.
And a lot of times what I've heard too, and like you really feel for this, is they, their dog or their cat will, stop being able to eat whatever they've been eating. And then they find a new protein, novel protein as they call it, and that agrees with them and they get on it. And then like a year or a couple months later or even more down the road, then all of a sudden that doesn't agree with them. So then they have to try and find another novel protein that works. And it's like, I've talked to people that are just cycling through different kinds of meat, seeing what their pet tolerates.
Yeah.
And what causes a reaction or doesn't. And like, that's intense. That's hard.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
And it's the novel proteins, or especially in the realm that we work in, like these things aren't cheap. Like if you have a pet and you're thinking pet food, like, you're paying $1.50 for a can of cat food, probably significantly more, I don't know. Or you're getting a bag of kibble and things like that. So you're expecting, maybe a handful of dollars a day. But some people are feeding their pets $10, $20, $30 in proteins a day because that's all they can get for this animal, and they're not going to let it die. Totally understandable. Like, I work with a company that gets venison from us here because they develop novel protein diets specifically for pets with dietary restrictions, and they're able to like formulate a blend with this protein and other amino acids and other things like that. I don't know exactly what the process is, but they have people that'll call them and be like, I don't care what it costs. Mm-hmm. And they're like, perfect, because it's not going to be cheap.
Now, do they do a specific blend for like each customer, or they have their set of...
They have a set of pet foods that they make, and then they'll also take on specialty customers that need that additional help, which is great.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting. And that's what those animals need is, like what you said, the novel protein that they, you need to have that, but basically a veterinary or home prepared novel protein diet, which are like actual terms, because the commercial stuff available for retail is they don't follow any of the, restrictions or heed to the concerns that those kinds of diets do.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to do it is with one of those super highly specialized companies where they can get it from.
Yeah. Or people constantly call us for kangaroo. Because there's something about kangaroo protein that's different from, say, like beef that these animals then can eat.
I mean, that's an interesting point. But kangaroos...
You're on the phone with your vet and you're like, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to feed my dog for the rest of its life?
No, people say...
You know, I live in New Jersey, in the United States.
You gotta move.
I can't mug the Bronx Zoo. Can't go in there and take one of the wallabies. But not gonna happen.
But not gonna happen. You can try. But kangaroo's a huge one. And then I've also had a lot of people see success with venison, elk, ostrich as well. And then duck for a lot of the cats, I've heard. I mean, don't you work with a cat food company as well?
Yeah, I work with the cat food company that does a really premium product. And she's actually working on, I don't know exactly what this means, but like a renal formula for cats with issues, I think, in their kidneys. And so she's got a specially developed recipe that she's coming out with for cat food, and she's actually a pharmacist by trade herself.
Oh, I was gonna say that does not sound
our dear
easy.
Alma.
Yeah, I was gonna say that does not sound easy. I couldn't do it. Don't task me with it. But yeah, I mean, it's more dogs than cats. But they
from my experience,
they don't get better. You know, it's an allergy that can't be cured. So once your pet and your pet can develop it, just like humans, though, kind of, they can develop it to something they've been eating their whole life. They can develop it the first time they try something, but the food allergies in pets can't be cured, and so it's like it's rough. But you gotta live with it then.
And that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
Saving lives, being heroes. Sometimes.
So, do you have any food restrictions, Ben? Besides the dairy, which we all know about?
No, I'm very lucky that I don't have any food allergies outside of like the things I put upon myself to try not to eat. And then we all give ourselves some leeway. I think, I could be doing better in that regard, but I'm not going to do a whole self-reflection right now. We don't have time. We don't have 4 hours. Oh my goodness. Or a Shea lounge for me to lay on with a cold compress. But no, I'm really lucky outside of, me having a less than fun relationship when I do eat lactose. I have no issues. I can eat everything. I've never had an allergic reaction. My sister is actually allergic to pineapple.
Interesting.
You remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And they would have like the vampire face and they have like really that puffier face and it would kind of get all demonic. Literally looks like that when she has pineapple.
I hope she doesn't have
Ask
pineapple
me if
often.
it's hilarious.
That's ridiculous.
It is.
So you don't have any allergies. That's cool.
What about you?
I don't really have any allergies.
We're big foodies. Like we would have run into something at this point. But you have to be careful at home.
But I was just gonna say I'm pretty sure I'm allergic to Brazil nuts. Not deathly.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, but years ago when I was younger, I had, our family friends had like one of the bowls of like nuts in the shell. And I was just cracking them and probably couldn't have told you if I'd eaten a Brazil nut before, but I cracked it, ate it, and then I was like, wow, my whole mouth and throat feel like very hot and itchy. And like my lips are very tingly. And I don't know what an allergic reaction is, but I kind of feel like this is it. And so I was like, all right, no more of that. And then another time in later years, I'm not super sensitive to it. So like I can eat mixed nuts with them in there. I just don't eat them. But then a couple years later, I must have accidentally eaten some.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I kind of feel the feeling again. It might be the Brazil nuts.
That's so unsettling. I've never had a reaction like that.
I mean, I hadn't either.
Yeah.
And I was younger and I was like, I feel this isn't normal. This is not what happens when I ate the other nuts. So, but I think they're a garbage nut anyway. So, I'm not too concerned about it.
As a personal thing or like a larger consensus?
I have a vendetta against Brazil nuts. Yeah.
They have a vendetta against you.
Well,
actually, it's life or death.
I'm glad
Katie.
I don't have to share any time, space, or energy with the Brazil nut.
That's so funny.
Do you have any closing thoughts for our loyal listeners, Ben?
I think people should really be concerned, especially in this day and age, of where they're getting their food from. I think that's a larger conversation we have here all the time. And when you hear diet and you get really strict on yourself of trying to only consume certain things, that you need to give yourself a break. So I think when you're looking at diets, think about what your end goal is. Think about what's sustainable. not just in terms of like the food system, but I mean, what are you actually going to stick with? That was definitely big for me for staying on certain things. Like I'll give myself a break on chocolate if I'm not eating pasta or whatever it might be. And to also make sure that you're sourcing your foods properly, because who knows what could be in it if you don't know where it's coming from. Pretty basic, but I think needs to be repeated again and again. What about you?
And I agree with Ben. No, you're right on all those things. Don't restrict yourself too much, because I just end up eating all the ice cream.
Yeah, love yourself. At the end of the day, you're on a diet. Even if you want to lose weight, if you want to hit a particular goal, it's because you're having a moment of self-love. So reflect on that and treat yourself as your best friend when you're on a diet. Have a burrito.
Also, love us. Please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.